Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's action-packed episode of the Altcoin Bible. I'm looking forward to today because there is a token in here, Mr. Pepe. You can see the image on my right-hand side. Is that token has been absolutely flying and has really taken the media by storm. It is always the way when there's a new meme token that goes up 700, 1,000%. People just start to pay massive attention to things. The next big thing. I'm personally advising caution on Pepe, even though I'm about to look at the chart and maybe look at it more positively. I just want to advise caution because generally we see at the end of these Bitcoin pumps and liquidity cycles, just within cycles, we tend to see the meme coins as the last things to really run up and gain that liquidity before we have sort of the rug pulled out. So you just want to be careful when you see a lot of this attention and liquidity and capital moving into these meme tokens, which don't really have any fundamental value whatsoever. You have to just go, okay, things might be looking right at the end of the frothy speculation phase before we have a bit of a flush. So just want to throw that out there. But I do want to look at Pepe because it is on a lot of people's radar and it's just a fun thing to look at. So let's crack straight in. I'm actually going to start on the negative tone. So I'm going to look at my danger zone first, and that is Optimism. So look, to be perfectly honest, a lot of tokens could be in a danger zone mode. There's a lot that look very, very similar. Actually, in fact, printing almost the same chart as Bitcoin. Optimism is slightly different. It's had a fairly decent run of it of late. It was forming into this really nice, or let's just say triangle type of pattern. It's not perfect, but you can see here it's adhered to the top of that trend line there. Also here, I've begun charting it at the bottom here along this moving average. So wick, 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 wick. So multiple touch points there, which I really, really like. And for mine, this is a pretty clear danger zone because it invalidated the pattern for one. It's now beneath these crucial moving averages. So you've got in there, you've got the 20, the 50, the 100. Lo and behold, down below, you've got the 200 moving average just sitting there, sort of waiting, come to me sort of situation. So that looks like an obvious danger zone to me. It's broken down from this pattern there. There was a little bit of a spike in the RSI when it ran up to the top of this triangle, but, just couldn't make any real go of it and break through. So unfortunately, it fell over. It's now down here. There's every thought that this could potentially have a bit of a bounce here because it is reminiscent of a bit of a falling wedge here where it could run back up. But that's what I want to be a little bit cautious of, because generally when these patterns do finally invalidate, and if I just zoom in here, it lost all those moving averages, fell out of the trend line, it's down here. This is a pretty good setup for a lot of futures traders where they like to short it. So if this has that run back up from here, let's say it breaks out of that falling wedge, comes back up and retest this area here, these moving averages now flipped resistance because it used to be support up here. All through here, it was bouncing on top of them, holding above, looked really, really positive, had the trend line as well beneath it, holding it up. But now that is going to turn resistance. So if this just runs from here and bounces up, I expect this to just get hit on the head and come down a bit lower into this zone here, potentially hit that 200 on the nose, as well as just clinging to this horizontal volume support here. If it drops down beneath this level, then it's going to drop pretty hard. And I think the only thing stopping it from going into essentially free fall down to this kind of level, $1.40, is this 200 and a bit of volume over here. Not too much. You could zoom in on the 4 hour and see a little bit more, but I think this will catch it down here at the 200. Could go a little bit lower, but yeah, to me, it doesn't look too great. There's a bit to work out here, and there's a lot of volume beneath waiting to catch Optimism a little bit lower. And this entire pulse up really hasn't touched that 200 daily moving average at all. And generally, these cryptos gravitate back towards these longer term moving averages. That's a 250% run up. Again, generally it comes back to the longer term moving averages eventually. And this looks like a prime setup, and it would be very, very healthy, I think, for that to do that. And why I think that level is pretty strong, because right now, the volume doesn't really show that it is strong, but this 200 will bring in buyers as well. It was the previous low over here. Is there any signal in that when we break is the 100? 100 is the yellow. So it's just not enough data, unfortunately. What I was trying to get at there was on some cryptos, and I'll show you on well, actually, I won't show you on Bitcoin, but I'll just tell you that Bitcoin has actually broken through the 50 moving average. And whenever Bitcoin closes beneath the 50 moving average, It has a tendency, especially in recent history, to run all the way down to the 100 and retest that. So it's kind of like if that, then if this, then that. So just keep that in mind. But for me, this is a optimum buy zone for Optimism down here. This is no man's land, in my opinion, up here. You kind of want to wait for this to either, break back into this sort of area up here above these moving averages. So I'll just get rid of some of that up in here. And then potentially, get back on top of this triangle. You could potentially get rid of the triangle if it starts to move a bit higher, and then look at the more safer, horizontals. So that's probably my horizontal we'll be looking at. If Optimism can actually get above that instead of, finding resistance and coming back down, if we can find there and bounce higher, yeah, I love that. I love that look. But so far, this is a good setup for lower. So that is why it is my danger zone this week. But look, I'm looking for buy entries in this kind of area. And then in terms of, take profits from this, I mean, you really do want to have a look at, taking some, if you're buying in here, you do want to take a look, takes a profit at $2.30 range at this big volume support, and then a little bit higher, maybe at the previous highs. All right, let's run into Mr. Old Pepe. Now, yeah, call me crazy, but I'm going to have this as my cherry ripe, and mainly because I can't really find anything else that looks too flash at the moment. We've got a lot of headwinds coming in this week with the FOMC, rate rise coming, also the debt ceiling, which will remove liquidity from the markets. So there aren't too many charts that do look okay, and Pepe is still within this charted structure. It's got a tremendous amount of marketing going on, a lot of eyeballs on it, a lot of liquidity just running into it, looking for those cheap gains. Again, I'll stick with what I said at the beginning. This alarms the hell out of me when you see a meme token just run this hard, because I think its lifespan in the shorter term before a big drawdown is, it's nigh, it's coming. However, if we're just looking at the pure technicals, we can see that Pepe is almost perfectly consolidating after, starting down here. And this is Gate.io. There could be an exchange, there probably is, that started even lower than this. So let's just say from this little low, I could go all the way back there to the listing, but let's not. Let's go up there. So 843% since 21st of April. That is insane. So this is clearly consolidating potentially for another run up. So we're getting towards the apex of the triangle, about 70% into the triangle, around about there. I would, if this is going to break up, it's going to break up somewhere around here and then run higher. I'm not sure how high, you could speculate, but I'm not going to do that. But this is cherry ripe for that reason, because it is still on top of, you say the 50 moving average. Let me just double check that is. Yes, the 50 moving average, the orange line there. It's hugging and on top of, it's in the volume, heavy volume support here. I get very concerned with Pepe if we begin to lose the 50 here. So we lose this, come down and start, hugging this trend line, because we're starting to inch into this territory where it could just start to roll over, come down and hit the 100, hit this volume area down here. That would be a really nice buy zone if you're into Pepe. But for mine, it's doing exactly what you want it to do if you're going to see a leg higher. So I'm going to look at it and say that that is the case, because RSI is beautifully contracted, these lower highs to about this midpoint. You can see this trend line here. It breaks up from here, and if it breaks up from this triangle, it's going higher. Stock RSI is reloaded beautifully as well to the mid-range. So it kind of points to me that it could very well do that. So above this level, you're looking at, in terms of sell zones, it's probably somewhere in here. Take a little bit of profit off, and then you can start to extrapolate how high it might go. So what's this here? It's let's do this trend line and just see what's the go. So it's about that high. Generally, it expands if it does to the the height of the pattern. So it's probably another, if it does break up from here, maybe another 100%, which is pretty wild. But again, this is a lower liquidity meme coin, can roll over very quick. There's a lot of people holding huge amounts of this token in terms of Ethereum value and dollar value. So at any moment, it could get dumped on really heavily and the liquidity could just evaporate. We're just going to have to see how Bitcoin rolls in this as well. So yeah, that's my read on that. But yeah, not surprisingly, it is my cherry ripe in this arena. All right, Litecoin. This is my one to watch. I really love Litecoin because of the narrative that it's coming into its halving in August, and it has shown a really, really good relative strength throughout this entire year, and even the back end of last year. And even here, it's really struggling to get below $85. But that doesn't mean it can't. I'm looking at it, and you can see I've got alert zones here as well. The Fibonacci levels is down at, was it 0.618? Let's have a look here. Let's go. I think I overlaid these according to Fibonacci levels, so one to watch. Let's have a look. From that point, do that point. I think that's about right. 0.786, and then that one there. But regardless, they're sort of the buy zones you'd be looking at here. But why it is my one to watch is, one, because of the relative strength, and two, because it has actually breached this trend line I had drawn here. So wick, wick in there, bit of a fake out drop below, and now it's kind of breaking out just a little bit. It's coming back down. So I'm watching it very, very closely. Still, bullish on some entries down here, 85, 81, 76, and that's based on volume as well. So if we just bring that out, just zoom out just a smidge. Those are the kind of areas, there and down here as well, including we've got previous price action that will tell us that. This is the 4 hour, of course. So I probably just want to, I brought the 4 hour up because I want to just show you a bit more of the granular view. But you can just see it's struggling to really break up through these moving averages. It's below the 20, the 50, the 100, 200. Don't like that at all. But it is sort of holding this volume area, and it's trying to support itself. Again, doesn't mean it can't have this sort of flash to the downside, but it's still one to watch because of that that relative strength. Also got the RSI here. If we start to break up through here, I'd start to get very interested. Go up to the daily. What are we looking at here? Yeah, on the daily, it's below all these key moving averages. It's running into overhead volume resistance. So for mine, this still looks like it wants to explore a bit more downside before the halving. This would be prime buy zone here at the 200 on the daily, somewhere around 80, in line with this volume support here. Probably won't get to 80, might get to 81, maybe 82. So that's a very interesting spot. And then the Hail Mary at about 76, or the thing is the 0.786, drawn from somewhere. I did have that on there for a reason, and it was a very consequential level. So if Litecoin can break up, from this sort of area, it's through this trend line, if it can get up sort of this area here, then it's motoring. I think it's going to start doing its thing over the next month or so. So we're just watching it very, very closely and seeing where this goes. But yeah, those are the entry points to the downside. And to the upside, you definitely want to be taking a bit of profit up into the high 90s, 98, 100. That 3 digits is going to be a psychological sort of area for investors and traders to take profit off. And then you've got that 115 type of area because of previous price action up here before, previous breakdowns and whatnot. You can go a bit more depth into that. But yeah, so far it's looking, pretty good, but it still feels like we're going to get a bit of a flush to the downside based on Bitcoin's performance relatively soon. But with anything that shows relative strength that we've been showing you lately, like Ethereum, Litecoin, big moves down, with the ones that are showing relative strength, they don't tend to go as low as you think, because there's willing buyers underneath that are just ready to gobble up at all these kind of levels, and they're trying to front run it. So just keep that in mind. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this Altcoin Bible. As always, I've had a blast. Hopefully you found it valuable with the information. Let us know as well some feedback on how you find these sessions. It's always much appreciated. So have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.